The opinions and suggestions expressed on the following program are solely those of the participants and not necessarily endorsed by program sponsors or any radio station, media company, or platform broadcasting this program. The following program is a product of Causeway LLC. The information in this broadcast is not intended as investment, tax, or financial advice. Matthew Moore is not a licensed investment advisor and speaks solely from his experience and opinions. All information in this broadcast is for entertainment or educational purposes only. Matthew Moore, Causeway LLC, and the company or platform broadcasting this program is not responsible for the success or failure of any person's investment decisions or purchases. Matthew Moore, Causeway LLC, and the company or platform broadcasting this program makes no and expressly disclaims all representations, warranties, and guarantees with respect to this broadcast and its sponsors. Investing in any market is inherently risky and can be financially dangerous. Invest at your own risk.
Government officials insist we will continue to keep you informed as this story unfolds.
Welcome to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore, the Bitcoin-focused radio show that's waking the masses to the fiat money Ponzi scheme. Money is changing, and your freedom is at stake. So stick around and learn how to empower yourself for this new digital age. Now, here's your host, Matthew J. Moore.
Welcome, America, and welcome, world. No matter where you are, or what you're doing, or who you are, I want to welcome every single one of you Bitcoin lovers, newbies, and experts. That's right, we got experts. But you are now listening to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore, and yes, we are one of the only syndicated radio shows in the United States dedicated to that topic known as Bitcoin, a show where you're going to learn about money, liberty, history, technology, and so much more. Because the truth is, there are so many facets, so many parts of information that you need to understand and wrap your head around when it comes to this space known as Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So buckle up, because on today's show, we're going to try to make sense of the current chaos. Yes, that's right. Chaos in the banking system, the financial markets. And we're going to ask questions like, what is a CBDC, and should you as an individual care? I mean, are we headed down a road of capital controls? Is that coming to a neighborhood near us? And if it is, what do we do? You know, we're going to cover all of this and more. And you can see that you can see that this episode, I'm going to kind of treat it as a warning. I'm kind of sounding an alarm bell, right? We want all of you to be aware of what might be coming here very, very soon. And I'm not going to be surprised because I have my suspicions. But today we have someone who is a returning guest, a person who has been following these developments very, very closely. And I'll introduce him to you here shortly. But I do have to give a quick shout out to Brian LaRue. He's our producer. He's the one that made that awesome intro and even our outros. You're going to hear that as well. So if you have an audio project, maybe you have a radio show, a podcast that you want to produce, well, go check him out at beyonduproductions.com. He's amazing at what he does. And I also want to give a really special shout out to SoonerMarketingSolutions.com. They have been so generous to provide their studio space for us, and also they serve us Americanos. It's perfect. They have great customer service. So if you got any marketing needs, you go check them out at SoonerMarketingSolutions.com. All right, without any further delay, today on the line, we have somebody very, very special, somebody who actually has been on the program before, but this is his first time on the syndicated version, because yes, we're in LA, Atlanta, Seattle, and hey, we're on the web, so we're everywhere. But on the line today, we have an independent journalist who has been involved in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space for quite some time. I met him personally at the Bitcoin conference a couple of years ago. He's the founder of RiceTVX.com. Some might say he is rice against the grain. Ultimately, though, he is a truth seeker who practices change, because when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people. His name is Chris Rice. Chris, welcome to the show. And for our new listeners and for those who are unfamiliar with your work, please share with everyone who you are and what you do in your own words.
Most definitely. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me back on the program. I greatly appreciate. And yeah, it was 2021 that we met at the Bitcoin conference. We were staying at the same hotel, and I was outside before leaving for one of the events smoking a cigarette. And I think that's when we ran into each other.
That's right.
So thanks again for having me back on. I greatly appreciate it. Again, I'm Chris Rice. Most people call me Rice. I am the host of two YouTube channels, Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain. Rice TVX focuses on cryptocurrency, economics, and politics, where Rice Against the Grain kind of goes down the rabbit hole of fringe topics, conspiracies, spirituality, law, hidden and alternative history, and more. When I first started my channel back in January of 2018, I was originally calling my channel Rice Crypto and had rebranded. And I'm definitely very, very opinionated when it comes to the cryptocurrency space. I come from a cypherpunk perspective of privacy and being your own bank. I am not a fan of our fractional reserve banking system. I'm not a fan of traditional finance the way.
I think we lost you there. We got a little bit of a break in the connection, but I think we'll be able to connect here shortly, real quick. But in the meantime, until I'm waiting for Chris to hop back on, see, we may have a data issue here.
Can you not hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, no, there you are, man. You're back. You're back. Sorry, you cut out there as you were talking about you weren't a big fan of the fractional reserve banking system. So go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with the connection there. Obviously, with the kind of content I cover, sometimes I end up having gremlins in my interwebs. So maybe someone didn't want me to get my message out there.
That deep state, man. I'll tell you what.
But I'm definitely not a big fan of our traditional finance system, our fractional reserve banking system, the fiat monetary system that we currently have since Richard Nixon fully took us off the gold standard. There is nothing backing up our money. Cryptocurrency I saw as a way for us to get away from that aspect of what's been controlling and keeping humanity down by manipulating everything with this debt-based slave system. So I started Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain to educate people in a bunch of different areas. Again, coming from that cypherpunk mentality, I really try to keep the idea of what I consider to be Satoshi Nakamoto's vision when the Bitcoin white paper was created and released on October 31st, 2008. I really try to come at things from that perspective. So I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation. Chaos is definitely a word that would describe where we're at. Yeah. And I definitely would say that this would be a warning. This is stuff that I've been covering in depth on my channel, Rice TVX. So if people are enjoying this conversation, head over to my channel, check out my playlist section, explore my channel, and you'll see lots of videos about central bank digital currencies, what's happening on the political spectrum regarding that, what's happening with us losing our liberties and freedoms, and what we can do about it as far as new solutions to old problems.
Yeah, no, that's so true. So very true. And that's why we are on traditional radios because, you know, I feel like there's not a whole lot of regular avenues as far as when it comes to media with radio that's as having conversations like this or talking about topics that are related to such things. And so I really enjoy doing this and I'm glad you're here. But let's talk about this. Recently, we've been seeing turmoil in the banking system and, you know, Big Daddy Federal Reserve has had to step in a large way to kind of backstop the system. And it seems, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, that the money printer has finally gone burr once again. And despite the troubles, they still chose to raise interest rates again, which was interesting. What is your take on this situation? Something tells me that the COVID print that they did is about to look a heck of a lot smaller. I mean, are we just seeing the tip of the iceberg here?
Yeah, we really are. I mean, if you think about what happened in 2007, 2008, everything has been put on life support since then. So I've been saying this for quite some time that things are definitely going to get a lot worse before they get better. And I don't really feel like they've gotten worse yet. And I feel like this is all by design. With the creation of the Federal Reserve, you know, people can read the book Creature from Jekyll Island from G. Edward Griffin, who I've interviewed on my show several times. It'll give people a really good idea and history of the creation of the Federal Reserve and what took place. Since the Federal Reserve has gotten in power, I mean, all these, the US dollar has been devalued. We've lost something like 98% of the purchasing power of the dollar since 1913, all by design. And what it's led up to now, all by design. The Fed created this problem. Right now, we have this high inflation that we're dealing with, not hyperinflation, but high forms of inflation. And to combat that, the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates. Now, in the process of raising interest rates, they knew that there was going to be two things coming out of it. It was going to look like they were trying to fix the problem that they created. And it was also going to cause I'll use the word chaos again, cause chaos within the regional and smaller banking system, because I feel like this is consolidation.
Right.
They, by raising the interest rates and fighting the inflation and looking like you're standing for the people because you're trying to fix the problem that you created. And then you look at the flip side of what's actually going on. People are starting to wake up, but it's not quite as fast as I would like to see them wake up. But I've kind of put this down to 4 words in recent videos, which is problem, reaction, solution, consolidation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. You tune into some of these meetings and announcements, and it's like, everybody is sitting on the edge of their seat and they're waiting for Papa Powell to come out and tell us what they're going to do. I mean, it's just sickening to me. But here we go. Here's another aspect. We know that the United States Treasury is sending mixed signals, in my opinion, when it comes to guaranteeing all bank deposits. And Caitlin Long, who I'm a big fan of, went on the record to say that she thinks that the world is starting to wake up to the fact that a bank deposit is basically an unsecured loan to a leveraged counterparty, and that the FDIC insurance fund only has $128 billion in it, and that the total deposits in the U.S. commercial banking system is $17.6 trillion. What is your take, Chris? Are people waking up to this Ponzi scheme?
Yeah, again, I really think people are starting to wake up, but it's not as fast as I would like to see. But maybe as the situation escalates, the waking up will escalate as well, and people will start to smarten up to what's going on. What Caitlin Long said, I never actually put it that way. But what she said is actually very correct. These are unsecured loans to a leveraged counterparty. And I've looked up how much information is in total U.S. deposits. That figure, if I'm not mistaken, comes from like Q3 of 2022 of 17.6. So even if it's a little bit more or a little bit less, we're still talking trillions and trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve and Janet Yellen have pretty much come out and said that they're going to backstop anything that's going to cause contagion. If we're seeing a bank that is not going to cause contagion to the system, then I don't think that they're going to be doing anything to really help that situation. Now, they've also, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury have said that they would make sure that they're taking care of all the money that's in people's bank accounts, regardless of FDIC. Now, when you think about that kind of goes back, circling back to what you said earlier about the money that was printed during 2020 through 2022 because of the COVID situation. But the COVID situation was an excuse for the printing, but they coincided with each other.
Right.
So it was really interesting. Over the weekend, I saw something from the president of Kenya.
I saw that too.
It was on Watcher Guru on Twitter, and he was basically warning his citizens that may be dealing with U.S. dollars that you may want to get rid of your U.S. dollars because the situation is going to get a lot worse in the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm. And, something smells quite fishy when it comes to this relationship between Russia and China. And then you've got Saudi Arabia getting in the mix and maybe doing some backdoor deals. I don't know. There's a lot of dominoes that are being perceived falling when it comes to people moving away from, the dollar as the world reserve currency. Some people think it's going to happen over a long period of time. Some people think it's going to happen fairly quickly. I don't have the answers, but that's why we're having this question.
Let me add something real quick, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is really important. BRICS Nation, the BRICS Nation banks is something that's going to cause the dollar to stumble a lot quicker. BRICS stands for Russia, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. I don't even know why I said South. I'm laughing at myself for combining words, but it's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And Saudi Arabia is looking to potentially get on board. Iran, Mexico has applied. Lots of other countries have applied. And the BRICS nation banks are creating their world reserve currency to compete against the U.S. dollar, which would be made up of a basket of the currencies from those nations that I mentioned. And it would also be backed by gold. So if the world, and the reason why the Kenya thing is so important, what I'm saying is because I think that the rest of the world has made an agreement to stop using the U.S. dollar. And I wouldn't be surprised if that causes the situation to get that much worse, that much quicker.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why people who are listening to this program need to be aware of that. And that's why we're going to talk about what we're doing personally to prepare for such a situation like that, because it's inevitable that the world reserve currency is going to change. Our monetary system is going to change. There's going to be a reshuffling of the deck, you might say. But let's talk about this, Chris. Some are speculating that there is a choke point operation that's going on when it comes to cryptocurrency or any other asset that might sit outside the dollar system. Are there any signs that government is going after the exits? I mean, should people be worried here?
I wouldn't say worried, but people should wake up, obviously, to what's going on. I mean, waking up to a lot of different things, but the cryptocurrency thing in particular, it's over the past year, you have had bigger name politicians and influential people in the world come out and speak out against Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, where some of those people I felt weren't trying to take the time to even mention it because it was going to give it relevancy. But then once crypto got to a point where it was like no turning back, certain important people had to start stepping up and saying certain things. And one of those individuals would be Hillary Clinton. She was at some IMF meetings, I believe, and she had talked about Bitcoin and decentralized cryptocurrencies as being a threat to nation states, to undermining the US dollar as a world reserve currency. Bitcoin and decentralized cryptocurrencies do offer the solution, and it is a way for people to take the power away from banks and central banks and governments. So it is a threat. And I do believe that there are people within the United States government and within different central banking organizations and other organizations around the world. That would be like your Bank of International Settlements, your International Monetary Fund, all the way to your non-governmental organizations like the World Economic Forum. It seems to be very coordinated what they're doing. It's not isolated to just cryptocurrency, but you can see with the bank failures that we've had recently, it kind of all started right after the FTX issue with Silvergate Bank. And then it started escalating after a few more weeks, and we've seen what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, and then Signature Bank, Credit Suisse, and a plethora of others. So, yeah, people should definitely be looking at alternatives, which I know we're going to be talking more about on today's episode.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, because I think people need to be aware, like, people are like, oh, what should I do? What should I do? And, and although we don't give financial advice on this show, we will tell you what we're personally doing. And you might take a couple of hints from that. But, things could get pretty dicey. In fact, I'm just going to, we have to go to break here real shortly, Chris. But in your opinion, if we experience hyperinflation by basically, let's say one day the BRICS nations come out and say, oh, hey, you know what? We're going to change how we do things. The Federal Reserve has had to print way more dollars or create way more dollars than they did during COVID in order to backstop or save the banking system, because maybe we have a banking crisis at the same time that the BRICS nations are basically, giving us the middle finger. What could hyperinflation happen fast, or do you think that's a slow process?
That's a good question. It's not really something I can specifically answer. It's just something I want to tell people to make sure that they're paying attention to. If we're seeing, we're already seeing. Oh,
I think we lost you there. Hopefully the signal will come back.
The quantitative tightening that they were trying to work on, it seems like they've undone at least 4 to 6 months of that already, just in a little bit of time. So the more that they print, the likelier we are to have a situation like hyperinflation. But it's also going to mean that other nations are going to have to stop using the US dollar, and dollars would come back to the United States.
Well, we got to run to break real quick. We'll be right back. We got more great stuff with Chris. What does it mean to be physically, spiritually, and financially free? The right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness, these were the ideas that made America. But what happens to these ideas when America's money becomes compromised? What do you do when the very thing that you're working for day after day is fundamentally designed to enslave you? Whether it was a conspiracy or not, you won't believe what is about to happen in this country. Arm yourself today with the truth and build your life on the foundations for liberty. Rediscover freedom in the 21st century and grab a copy of my Amazon best-selling book, Foundations for Liberty. For just $11.99, you can support this radio show by finding a copy on Amazon or by going to mattjmoore.com. Again, that's mattjmoore.com. Don't wait, because freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. Do you have a strategy to obtain Bitcoin on a regular basis? Do you plan to automate your dollar cost averaging? What about getting all or part of your paycheck in Bitcoin? GetHedge.io is revolutionizing how you get paid. Hedge makes it easy to automatically convert your pay into Bitcoin. Whether you're an employer or employee, you can get started in 4 easy steps. Start getting paid in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. The great part about using Hedge is you can skip the exchange experience altogether and have your Bitcoin sent directly to a wallet you control. Self-custody is key, and GetHedge is giving you the power. Hedge is here to make it easy to stack those sats month after month. Bitcoin, it's a long-term play, so what are you waiting for? Start living on the Hedge, and don't forget to let them know that you heard about Hedge from Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Use my referral link at mattjmoore.com, or you can go to gethedge.io. Again, that's gethedge.io.
Short-form video content is taking over social media, and with only seconds to capture someone's attention, our team can help you stand out from the crowd. At Sooner Marketing Solutions, we'll produce and publish engaging TikToks, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. If you feel like you're falling to the wayside and missing out on the exposure that you deserve, click the link in the description to get Sooner results now.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-262-4182. 800-262-4182. That's 800-262-4182.
Welcome back, America. That's right. You're in the right spot. We have the world, I should say the nation's only syndicated radio show when it comes to Bitcoin. And yes, if you're a lover of Bitcoin, or a newbie of Bitcoin, or even an expert, we welcome all of you. In fact, even if you maybe are a doubter or a hater of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, I want to welcome you anyways. And if you want to send me some hate mail, maybe a carefully typed out insult, you can always email that to me at mattjmoore.com. I'd be happy to read that. But by the way, I just want to tell you guys, you're going to learn a lot today. We learn so much on every episode, because the truth is, whether it's energy, whether it's history, whether it's freedom, whether it's money, technology, a lot goes into this. And that's why we bring on awesome guests who are very knowledgeable in their select fields. And today's topic is and conversation is going to be no different. In fact, there's no doubt, like if you've been watching the news, if you've been paying attention to financial markets, there's a ton of chaos in the world right now. And we're going to try to make sense of what's kind of to come down that road. You know, we're talking about this idea of central bank digital currencies, what the Federal Reserve has been doing, our capital controls to be something to worry about. You know, if you're in cryptocurrency or other assets outside of the dollar, are you safe? I mean, these are things we're going to cover. But I need to tell you before we get going, if you heard that awesome intro and outro music, that was produced by my wonderful friend Brian LaRue with BeyondYouProductions.com. So if you have any production needs, go ahead and hit him up. And also, one more time, we are very, very thankful for the studio space that SoonerMarketingSolutions.com has provided us here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But yes, we send out this signal, this broadcast out to the world, not only through the interwebs, but in Seattle, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. So yes, our radio show is all over the place, and we look forward to continue to grow that. But let's go ahead and continue this important conversation so you yourself can stay informed on what's coming down the road when it comes to the monetary system, your finances. Today on the line, we have an independent journalist who has been a great influencer in the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space. He is the founder of RiceTVX.com. And like I said earlier, some might say he is Rice against the grain. His name is Chris Rice, often goes by Rice. But Chris, welcome back to the show. I apologize for having to cut you off there at the end of the last segment. Sometimes those commercial breaks come up really, really fast. But, you know, what's wonderful about radio is we often have to repeat ourselves because you never know when somebody's jumping in their car and just tuning in for the first time. So go ahead and share with those new listeners who you are.
Again, my name is Chris Rice. Everybody calls me Rice. I'm the host of 2 YouTube channels, Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain. A little bit of something for everybody. Rice TVX focuses on crypto, economics, and politics, and Rice Against the Grain, we go down the rabbit hole of fringe topics, conspiracies, law, hidden and alternative history, spirituality, and more. And I'm just here on a mission to help wake people up at the power that they have, because as I say often in my videos, when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people, but it takes the people being educated so that we can stand together.
Amen. Amen. Well, hey, here is a topic that we were kind of touching on earlier, which is the banking system. You know, Moody's Investor Service, which a lot of people are familiar with, they're one of the big 3 credit rating firms. They basically made a statement that they see that there's a risk to the U.S. banking turmoil that essentially can't be contained. And then you've got fund managers over at Bank of America fearing a systemic credit event. I mean, what are you personally doing to prepare for maybe a major, banking calamity?
Well, again, that is another great question. I mean, there's many things that people can do. It just kind of really depends on what people have at their disposal. I would encourage people to make sure that they not only own some cryptocurrency, specifically decentralized projects like Bitcoin. I like to use Bitcoin as the example for a decentralized cryptocurrency. In addition to crypto, precious metals, your monetary metals like gold and silver, I'm a big proponent of them as well, even copper. So those things can help out. We have bartering items, things that you can think of that people may need when SHTF happens, because, like I was saying about the hyperinflation, if we end up printing all this money and money comes back from other nations to the United States, that is what's going to cause this. And once it happens so quickly, and people can look at more recent situations like in Venezuela, or go back and look at what happened in Zimbabwe with their hyperinflation. So bartering items, think of things that people would need. You have medicines, you have tobacco, food, obviously stock up on foods, because, you never know if you have extra food, you may be able to barter with that, but you're going to want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Like bullets is another thing. Right. Any alcohol, anything that people can think of that you can utilize to be able to trade for things that you may need. Because the situation, again, like I said earlier, I really feel like, not trying to be a doom bringer, but a realist, that things are going to get worse before they get better. And the more that people are prepared for that, the better off that each of us are going to be, so where we can help each other out.
That's right. And oddly enough, I guess toilet paper is now on that list. But
yeah, good addition.
Okay. Well, hey, Chris, let's dive into this. So the Federal Reserve has basically stated that they plan to make their new payment system, FedNow, live and operational for this summer. Can you explain to us what FedNow is? I mean, is this the first step to their efforts to a central bank digital currency?
It sort of is kind of going in that direction. I couldn't necessarily say it's the first step, but what FedNow is specifically is a 24/7, 365 instant payment service, where a lot of things that you're doing, we're kind of going through antiquated methods. This is giving people ways to be able to transfer money instantaneously. What it is actually doing, in my opinion, is trying to offer up some sort of a solution to compete against cryptocurrencies, because I do feel like it is a precursor to central bank digital currencies, but I don't think FedNow itself is going to necessarily be ushering in the central bank digital currency. It's going to be ushered in a different way. FedNow is a part of the Federal Reserve, and I believe that the central bank digital currency will be a separate part of whatever entity creates it, whether it's the Federal Reserve or the Treasury, or they end up using the private sector.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And we've had conversations on the show about how bad central bank digital currencies are, and trying to get people to understand the difference between that and Bitcoin, because people who are not in the space, they obviously put, both of them in the same category, and it's definitely not the case. But in your own words, just tell the people why a central bank digital currency is such a horrible idea.
I want to get into that in just a second. Here's the thing. We're going to have a central bank digital currency come one way or another. There's no way to avoid that. But what we as individuals need to do, as we the people, whether you're in the United States or another country, you need to make your voice heard to your local constituents, your politicians that were supposed to be elected to represent your vote wherever you are, because there's legislation being introduced on state levels, there's introduced on federal levels here in the United States. And if you don't voice your opinion of how you want your representatives to vote, then they're going to vote the way that they're going to vote. And a lot of times that's going to be the lobbying money that's going to help push them in that direction. Now, to say why I think this is personally a horrible idea is if we don't do anything and the legislation is shaped in a way that it benefits the central banks and governments and not the people, we're going to get programmable currency. So if people are familiar with the George Orwell book, 1984, or if you're not, I would encourage you to familiarize yourself with it, because that's where we're entering. We're entering into a big brother surveillance network. And what is really alarming about the programmable currency aspect, and we can use Canada with the Freedom Trucker Convoy situation as a good example, where Canada had to go through a legislative process to be able to get approval to be able to shut people's bank accounts down, freeze their bank accounts, and all those kind of things, because they didn't agree with them supporting this movement. If we had a central bank digital currency, they wouldn't need to have that legislation. It would be programmed in for that aspect. And then also, if you combine that with something like a social credit, your carbon credit score, basically, you're going to have to make sure that you're complying with everything that's being told of you, or you're not going to be able to access your funds in certain ways. They may geolocate, limit your spending. You may only be able to spend in a certain area. They may, if you're an overweight individual, they may not let you purchase things that are going to continue to encourage you to be overweight. If you start not doing things that you're not supposed to do, they could essentially shut you out of your finances. So it really just opens up a door that I don't think people are quite ready for. I understand the privacy argument of what do you have to hide, but I like to use the argument of a bathroom. Like when I use the restroom, especially a number 2, I like privacy. But if you want to do that in a glass outhouse, you're more than welcome to do that. And that's what you're going to be getting into with the situation of a central bank digital currency. Is you're not going to have any privacy, no privacy at all. You're also going to have instantaneous taxation. I mean, there's a plethora of things, and I cover this in immense detail on my channel. I have a specific playlist called Must Watch Crypto Playlist in my playlist section. It'll catch you up on all the specifics, because I'm trying to do as much of a summary as I can to be respectful of your time. Oh, I love it. Well, you're doing a great job, but let's dive into this here real quick. I mean, recently, because of all this banking turmoil, we've had people like the president, the Fed chairman, Treasury secretary, all step out and do press conferences, and they're trying to reassure the public that the banking system is strong and sound. And I've been told that often when these kind of officials are coming out saying, hey, don't panic, everything's fine, everything's working great, that's actually when you should be panicking. What are your thoughts? Oh, I thought I was muted and I coughed. I apologize. No. You're good. You're good. I agree 100%. I feel really bad that I'm sitting here coughing. I thought I was muted. But yeah, I do. This is all created by design for multiple reasons, because it ends up, if you look at the way the wealth distribution is in the world, we have a lower, middle, and upper class, and it's really wiping out the middle class. And it's getting it down to those who have and those who have not. And then you also think about how it's going to essentially destroy smaller banks and consolidate the banking system. And then it's kind of like don't let a crisis go to waste, because I feel as if, in a sense, this sort of controlled demolition. It's controlled in their aspect. It doesn't look controlled to everybody else, but this controlled demolition that's going on by the central banks will usher us into a central bank digital currency. It's not really going to give people much of a choice, because if people were given a choice, most people would not accept it. But if we're in a situation where that's all you have to use, because the other system, the system that we're used to right now that we're talking about, goes away, then what?
Right. Right. Well, and it's interesting because a lot of, I have the personal stance of whether it's hyperinflation, whether it's capital controls, no matter what takes place in the future, for the last, over a decade, really, I've been buying Bitcoin, gold, and silver, and I've been trying to, sound the alarms and get people, into hard assets and protecting themselves, because essentially when these events happen, sometimes they can happen pretty quickly. They can unfold in days or weeks and a lot of times there's a heavy learning curve. People, even when it comes to gold and silver, like, where do I buy my gold and silver? Well, how do I get my dollars out of the bank account? Good luck trying to get 10 grand of cash out, or even 5 grand, or even, a couple thousand, you'll be given hell. But the thing is it's better to be positioned now, because when that moment does happen, because a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines going, well, when things get really bad, I'm going to go ahead and, throw some money into that stuff and maybe I'll be protected then. Well, it's going to be too late. Don't wait. That's my personal opinion. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100%, because then there's going to be, everybody's going to be rushing for the exit at the same time. Imagine that you're inside of a building that's catching on fire and you have one exit.
Right.
Only so many people are going to make it out.
Yeah,
because of the fact that everybody is in a panic. So, people definitely need to be thinking about this, because that's the other danger about the central bank digital currency. When it's controlled currency or programmable currency, they can prevent you from buying certain things. So you may not be able to buy things like gold and silver. You may not be able to buy things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency using a central bank digital currency. You may not be able to buy some of the things I said as bartering, things that you can use to barter with a central bank digital currency, because they may deem them as not something they want citizens to own. And if we get that central bank digital currency that we don't want, you're not really going to have a choice.
No, that's so true. It's, as we watch this whole turmoil in the system, it seems like it's not just America that's having issues with banks, but what's your take on Credit Suisse? There's sign of maybe some global banking contagion. Even Deutsche Bank is falling apart. Their stock, I think, tumbled 32% in 1 week and 9% in a 24-hour window. It doesn't look too good.
It doesn't, but a lot of this partially is the dollar being the world reserve currency, because all the other currencies in the world, all of the fiat currencies like your foreign exchange market, are judged against the US dollar. So when people saw the crisis that took place in Great Britain, where they had lost a strong percentage of their British sterling pound, it was directly in result of the United States with their money printing. It's been also... And also in addition, the raising of interest rates, which even the IMF had warned central banks, not just the Federal Reserve, but all central banks, to not do. They got to show face. Since 2007, 2008 issue, Credit Suisse and Deutsche both have been kind of screwed. Deutsche has had both banks have had numerous issues since the 2008 time period. So it's not anything new to know that they're having problems now. The problem with these banks, especially like Deutsche Bank, is I believe, unless something has changed since my research, is the largest holder of derivatives in the world.
Right.
And that is a scary situation. That's why you've been seeing Deutsche Bank being propped up for so long, because it's such a big piece of the game that if you look at it like dominoes, it's such a big piece that it would definitely take down a lot more dominoes. It may not be the catalyst to take down the entire system, but and again, this is all about consolidation. What we've seen with Credit Suisse has been basically sold off to their competitor.
Right. Yeah.
For basically nothing. And again, problem, reaction, solution, consolidation.
Well, so we got about a minute before we got to go to break, but if there's, if things start to unfold quickly, where do you suggest people go to get accurate real-time information? Do they trust mainstream media? Because in my opinion, I don't.
No. I mean, just try to find different podcasts, YouTubers, and people that you trust that you can really try to listen to, and try to listen to as many people as you can so that you can get different opinions, and also listen to people that you may not necessarily agree with so that you can get different perspectives as well, so that you can form better educated decisions, so that you can make better choices for you, your family, your loved ones, or whatever the situation might be.
Yeah, no, and I also find that Twitter has been a great place. If you keep if you follow those really smart individuals who've got their pulse on things, maybe close to the ground, you get some really good information off of the right people on Twitter. You concur with that?
Yeah, you might actually be able to see a Michael Burry tweet before he deletes it.
Well, okay. Well, guys, we have to go to break here in just a minute, but I do want to encourage everybody who is listening. If you're listening to this show on the radio, hey, get a friend, have them tune in, because we're going to continue to have an interesting conversation, some things that you may be unfamiliar with. But if you're listening online, go ahead, give us a like, a share, a shout out, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. We got to get the word out. So if you're listening to this digitally, go ahead and share it, and let us know what you think. Be a part of the conversation. And you can always check out more of my content at mattjmoore.com. And if you haven't signed up to go to the Bitcoin conference this year in May, I would highly encourage you, because you can meet people like me and Chris, and there's so many movers and shakers there. It's really, you can't miss it. It's a party, education, everything you could imagine for a conference. One of my favorites in the year, actually, annual conferences. But
it's the best crypto conference of the year. Don't try to sell this thing short.
Oh, I know. It's absolutely right. Yeah, and if you want 10% off your tickets, just go to mattjmoore.com. Use promo code BTC Radio for 10% off of your tickets, because I guarantee you, if you come and you meet these people and you learn, you're going to be so interconnected. And if you make the right efforts to meet the right people, hand out your business cards, start a conversation, get some telephone numbers. This is Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned. The sun, beaches, parties, education, and Bitcoin. This is the recipe for Bitcoin 2023, the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. Ever thought about meeting industry experts? It's the who's who of Bitcoin, and you can't miss it. Join us in Miami, Florida for the annual Bitcoin conference. Use my promo code BTC Radio at checkout. That's BTC Radio. Learn more at mattjmoore.com.
Okay, I'm talking funny because I'm in the witness protection program. I have too much credit card debt and I don't want people to find me.
Okay, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about credit card debt. Right, those plastic things that we all have in our wallet. Are you in your 50s or 60s and you're still carrying around a mound of credit card debt? Wouldn't it be nice to start banking that money and save a little money for retirement down the road? We help people restructure their credit card debt all the time. We show people how they can get out of credit card debt in months, not years. Listen, you'll be carrying around credit card debt for the rest of your life unless you deal with it right now. We offer a free consultation so you can learn how you can finally wipe out your credit card debt and start saving money. Give us a free call right now.
Call Debt Solutions Network now. 800-593-0298. 800-593-0298. That's 800-593-0298.
Do you have a strategy to obtain Bitcoin on a regular basis? Do you plan to automate your dollar cost averaging? What about getting all or part of your paycheck in Bitcoin? GetHedge.io is revolutionizing how you get paid. Hedge makes it easy to automatically convert your pay into Bitcoin. Whether you're an employer or employee, you can get started in 4 easy steps. Start getting paid in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. The great part about using Hedge is you can skip the exchange experience altogether and have your Bitcoin sent directly to a wallet you control. Self-custody is key, and GetHedge is giving you the power. Hedge is here to make it easy to stack those sats month after month. Bitcoin, it's a long-term play, so what are you waiting for? Start living on the Hedge, and don't forget to let them know that you heard about Hedge from Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Use my referral link at mattjmoore.com, or you can go to gethedge.io. Again, that's gethedge.io.
Short-form video content is taking over social media, and with only seconds to capture someone's attention, our team can help you stand out from the crowd. At Sooner Marketing Solutions, we'll produce and publish engaging TikToks, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. If you feel like you're falling to the wayside and missing out on the exposure that you deserve, click the link in the description to get sooner results now.
Welcome back, America. That's right. You're in the right spot. It's round 3, ding, 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 of America's Bitcoin-focused radio show. And whether, like I said earlier, whether you're a Bitcoin lover, newbie, expert, maybe you're just a hobbyist, I want to welcome all of you because we cover topics that really do matter, that could change your life if you take them to heart. But, I want you to stick around because we've been having a great conversation with a guest who, hey, honestly knows his stuff. I mean, we do it every radio show. In fact, Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore, I want to let you know we made this show for you so that way you could be educated, so that way you could be prepared, so that way you could understand what is coming, because there's a lot that goes into understanding what is coming. And we like to sound the alarm bells. We don't want to be an alarmist, but we want you to be aware. And no doubt, there's a lot, like I said, a lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of new movements taking place in financial markets, the global economy, central banks, they're up to their own little shenanigans. We got central bank digital currencies that are becoming more and more prevalent in the conversation, even in the mainstream media. But should we be worried about that? Should we be worried about things like capital controls, being able to leave the financial system if we don't like it? Can we vote with our feet? Can we vote with our dollars? Can we vote with our wealth? Do we have that freedom? I mean, these are questions that we are talking about answering today. And again, like I said, I've got a returning guest, and he is a independent journalist who has been a great influencer in the Bitcoin space. And he's the founder of ricetvx.com. Some might say he, like I said earlier, is Rice Against the Grain. I love that little slogan there. But his name is Chris Rice. Chris, welcome back to the show. And once again, we got new listeners tuning in for the first time. Maybe they just jumped in their car. Go ahead and give us a brief rundown of who you are and what you do.
No problem. Again, I'm Chris Rice. I'm a YouTuber, I'm a journalist, and I'm a freedom advocate. Some people call me the American Pitbull. I call myself the open-minded skeptic. I have 2 YouTube channels. You can find links to both Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain at ricetvx.com. I just definitely aim to educate and try to help people out.
Well, one thing I love what you do is you are definitely making a lot of good noise. It's not just you're sending out a lot of great information, a lot of great content. I've seen your guests on so many great programs. But what do you personally have to offer to help people prepare for maybe a complete banking collapse? Do they need to just go to your website and take a listen to a couple of your videos, your podcast? Like what should they be doing?
Yeah, that's honestly the best way, is really just kind of get your feet wet, check out some of my content and see if I resonate with you. I mean, if what I've said on today's program resonated, then you'll definitely enjoy what I talk about on Rice TVX, because that channel, again, is focused on the crypto economics and politics aspect, which is pretty much what we're covering today.
Okay, well, obviously this has been a concern of mine, a concern of yours, and, we've talked about the negative nature of a central bank digital currency, but what other concerns do you have about the future right now besides maybe some of the things we're talking about? What should people have on their radar?
Honestly, getting prepared. When I say things will get worse before they get better, and I'm a realist, I really encourage people. The most important thing that's going to help you to survive and thrive beyond the things that I've already mentioned so far today is community building. So really try to get with your neighbors, your friends and family that are local to you, and try to form some sort of a network where you guys can support and look after each other in a multitude of different ways. Because if we end up seeing hyperinflation come to the United States and essentially our banking system as we know it ending, it's going to be chaotic. It may even seem Mad Max-ish for a while. And again, check out Venezuela and check out what happened in Zimbabwe and see how the citizens of those nations reacted to what happened. And that will give you an indication of what could be coming here to the United States, because this fiat game that we've been playing is definitely ended quite some time ago, and they're just trying to do what they can to maintain presence. And while they're doing that, the rest of the world is recognizing what the U.S. dollar is and isn't. More so what it isn't. Right.
No, absolutely. And, me and you, we've been involved in the crypto space, sound money space for quite some time. And there's a lot of great personalities, great education out there. But what is it, in your opinion, that us or people in the space are doing right and doing wrong? I mean, are we getting the message out there, or are we just talking in circles here?
I would like to think that we're not talking in circles. I mean, I think that when you look at the community, especially myself, I mean, I have a peer group of different content creators, YouTubers, influencers, whatever people want to call them. And the good thing about having so many different diverse people is that we can reach different audiences, different demographics. So ultimately, I think that the information is there if people want to find it. It's just a matter of people losing faith in the system, waking up to the lies that's been perpetrated amongst them. And you said earlier about people that are doubters and haters of Bitcoin. When we do see an introduction of a central bank digital currency, and if it comes out the way that the central banks and governments would like to see it come out, then you're really going to honestly, truly appreciate what Bitcoin was created and designed for, and really and fundamentally understand the importance of a decentralized currency, but in this aspect, a decentralized cryptocurrency. So I would just tell the haters, you're gonna recognize at some point, because what I used to call our fractional reserve banking is now basically fictional banking. Right. There is the banking has no reserve requirement. If a very small percentage of people, and I'm not even sure what that percentage is, it might be 2, 3, 4% of people around the world were to withdraw their funds, I think it would crash the banking system. And I'm really encouraging people to pull the plug at this point, because I feel as if they're trying to keep everything on life support so that they can introduce central bank digital currencies. I don't think we're quite ready for the central bank digital currencies, but if we can pull the plug before they're ready for the plug to be pulled, it may cause a little bit of an issue for their plans. And so what I encourage people to do is to use credit unions, because credit unions fall under something different than the FDIC. I encourage people to either pull all their money out of the banks and unbank yourself, decouple yourself from banks, or pull out everything that you don't need to cover and pay for your bills. Because as Matthew said earlier, I'm paraphrasing, it's going to be a lot easier for you to deposit money than it will be for you to withdraw it, as Matthew said, because I know many people, and you use the $5,000 figure. I've heard from numerous people, $5,000, you got to give us a 5 business day notice.
That's just nuts, And
it's a lot easier. It might be a pain, but it'd be a lot easier for you to deposit money than it will be for you to withdraw your money. So only leave in what you need to cover and pay your bills. And at this point, you need to look at banking just like you would with any investment. Never invest more than you're willing to lose.
That's true. That is so true. Because your money, in my opinion, is not safe in the bank, as people are starting to learn really, really, really fast. All right. Well, Chris, any final thoughts before we close out the show? We got about a minute or two before we got to run. Do you have any closing thoughts?
The only thing I would really do is just really encourage people, again, if you resonated with what I said, be sure to check out my channel, Rice TVX. If the other things that I talked about with Rice Against the Grain interest you, I would definitely encourage you to check out that channel. At one point, everything was on Rice TVX, but I've been dealing with a lot of censorship and shadow banning. I bring on a lot of guests that are controversial. One of my claim to fames is interviewing John McAfee more times than anybody else in the world. So I would encourage people to check out those 7 interviews that I did with John McAfee before his passing. And I've also befriended his widow, Janice, who I became friends with while he was alive. And I've had Janice on my show a few times. I've had G. Edward Griffin on, Max Kaiser, Anthony Pompliano, Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin, Charles Hodgkinson, just to name a few on Rice TVX. So my 5 years of work is sitting right there, that except for the ones that YouTube has decided to delete, is sitting there for you guys to discover and learn from.
All right. Well, in 30 seconds, what, if you don't mind me asking, what about that data dump that was going to come from John McAfee? Do you think that's still a thing?
I'm not quite sure. That's a whole nother ordeal, and I can discuss things with you more privately about,
I know that's about
that. But I really don't think that that's the case. I feel as if there was this terabyte 3.2 whatever this information that was going to get released. I feel like it would have been given to multiple people at the same time. I don't see a release of the information on a blockchain, or even using any of the projects that he was involved with. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert.
Well,
John's body still hasn't been released as of yet. Today is March March 27th, 2023, and that will be putting us at about a year and a half, I think, since maybe a little longer since his death, and his body still hasn't been released, which obviously...
All right. Well, Chris, I hate to interrupt. We got to run. I'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Until next time, we'll see you.